Hey, Pretty Girl Club. I have another exotical story time. So, another one of the pretty girls emailed me. Be sure to email exoticalsunited@gmail.com if you want your story to be heard, because now that the channel has reached 11,000 subscribers, that is great for us as MLS women because all of the people that we are drawing in with the decentering men content and all this other stuff, those people have an opportunity to hear our stories. And we are building our own community. We have successfully built our own niche on YouTube. I mean, I guess I consider it its own niche, like once this community reached 10,000 people. So, by the way, if you're an MLS woman and you want to start a YouTube channel, you definitely should. I talk about this in the Patreon about how every MLS woman should have her own YouTube channel because not only does it help you to get paid, but with this new niche that is coming out on YouTube of MLS women, kind of talking about our experiences and talking about pretty girl problems and stuff like that, this is a quickly growing community. So you guys should totally hop on the bandwagon. I really hope you guys start YouTube channels, even if it's not about MLS issues, even if it's just you talking about something random. That would be awesome. But be sure to email your stories to exoticalsunited@gmail.com because we can't all be lying. A lot of people have tried to call us delusional, and it's like, we can't all be making this stuff up. You're telling me that 10,000 people, that we're all just making this up in our head? And have you ever noticed how a lot of the colorism stories of unambiguous monoracial black women, it tends to involve a man and it tends to be male-centered, but a lot of our colorism stories or, stories of people bashing us, it involves everybody. Our own mothers, our own fathers, women, men, doesn't even matter who, co-workers. Anyway, sorry, I'm done rambling. Let's get to the story. She says, "Hey, pretty girl, I have so many stories to share. I am monoracial, light-skinned, with freckles and 4C hair with natural highlights. I wear wigs most of the time, though. I have relatively small but distinctly African features. I would say that for reference. I look similar to Solange or Tierra Marie. I have so many stories to share. Hopefully they are not too long, but the first one is the real kicker. It was Juneteenth, and I was in the height of enjoying my pretty privilege and cashing in on my exotical tax as a single 26-year-old in Atlanta. I was on dates with high-status men nearly 5 times a week, and any guys I dated knew this. One guy had asked me to go to a party with him, and he bought the tickets in advance. He was running late, so he sent them to me so I could enter before him. The parking lot was packed, but I found a spot that happened to be right next to a guy I had just matched with on an app the day before. He immediately recognized me and got out of his car and called my name. He was really excited to have met me and said I looked better in person. He was pretty attractive, but super skinny, definitely underweight, and light skin with light eyes. We stood in line together since my date hadn't yet arrived, and we hit it off. We decided to meet up after the party since I already liked him more than my actual date. We went to a lounge after the party, and I remember him making a comment specifically about us both being light-skinned. Something like, we, MLS people, never date each other, or people are staring because we look so good together, or something like that. He had such a good time that he asked me out again the very next day. We sat and talked, and he revealed that he had lost his virginity at 19, which he considered late, but his original plan was to wait until marriage. Little did he know, I myself was a virgin and waiting. On our next date, I did something to rub him the wrong way. I don't even remember what. At some point, he was holding my hand, and I commented on our skin tones being similar. He quickly corrected me and said, "No, I'm light-skinned. You're more of a light brown." If you'll recall, just a week earlier, he literally brought up how we are both light out of nowhere. I was floored. Yeah, it's a humbling tactic. They don't want you to feel confident in your identity as a light-skinned person because a lot of people won't admit that your skin tone is a part of your identity. It's so funny because people will say, oh, you're making being light-skinned your identity. You're making being mixed your identity. And it's like, well, being dark-skinned, that's a part of your identity, right? That's a part of how you look, and you should celebrate that. Being black, that's a part of your identity, and you should celebrate that, and you have the right to talk about that, and you have the right to call yourself by whatever nicknames or terms of endearment you please. Have you ever noticed how no one polices dark skin, but people always police light skin? It's because they pedestalize it. So by telling you you're not that light skin, It's a way to try to humble you. It's a way to try to make you feel an inferiority complex because people, they don't want you to feel confident about your skin tone. They don't want you to celebrate your skin tone because, you're just going to start feeling a little bit too good about yourself. So I'm not going to allow you to be light skinned. You have to be in the brown category. And it's funny because these people actually think that this is going to work. But here on this channel, I talk about how you don't get to control how I navigate through society. You don't get to decide what name I call my skin tone. So you can call me light brown or dark brown or unambiguous, black passing. I don't care what other people call me. But guess what? What's really important is what I call myself. And so a lot of people, they want to call you by certain inaccurate skin tone names, or maybe the skin tone name is accurate, but you yourself, you tend to call yourself light skinned because that's shorter than saying light brown skinned. But a lot of people, they want to try to project their opinions of you onto you because they are hoping that it will change your self-perception. A lot of people don't want you to be able to control your own self-perception. Anyway, let's continue. She said, but it came to a head a week or so later. He was very insecure, and it was finally revealed why. I finally told him that I was a virgin, and he seemed blown away, probably because I didn't fit the stereotype, being the fun party girl that I was. He then took about 30 minutes to work up the courage to tell me that he had genital herpes. I was surprised and had doubts about continuing dating him. No shame to anyone who has it, but it wouldn't be my preference. I didn't immediately write him off, but I was kind about it and tried to be understanding. He, on the other hand, became increasingly hostile toward me and tried in many little ways to belittle my worth and my beauty. And that's exactly what people are trying to do. They're trying to say, you're not light skinned, or you're not this, you're not that. Oh, you're brown, you're light brown, or no, you're dark brown, you're medium. They're trying to say that because they're using your skin tone to belittle your worth and to belittle your beauty, because in their mind, the lighter a person is, the more beautiful they are, or the more beautiful they think they are. So they're giving the light skin stereotype or whatever. So they're trying to humble you by making you out to be darker than you are, or by policing your skin tone and saying you can't call yourself light skin. So my advice to anybody who's watching this channel is, no, actually, I can call myself whatever the fuck I want. I can call myself a dinosaur if I want to. I can call myself purple if I want to. It's my body, it's my tone, it's my shade. I get to have fun with the nicknames that I call myself, and that's it. Anyway, rant over. She said he would talk about how he preferred Latinas, and also said that because of my partying, no man, especially one of means, would be willing to wait until marriage for me. So yes, I've noticed that a lot of people, they try to pit us MLS women against each other. So they will try to, in order to humble light-skinned monoracial women, they will try to say, oh, well, you're not even mixed, you just happen to have a lighter skin tone. Or if you are light-skinned and not white passing, like myself, I fall in that category, I'm not white passing, people will try to be like, oh, well, you're not that light-skinned. And it's really because of your African features or because you're not white passing. Same thing with hair textures. People will try to say, oh, well, you don't have type 3 hair. Like, oh, you would look mixed if it wasn't for your hair. And same thing with darker skin, multiracial women. People will try to be like, oh, well, you may be mixed, but nobody can tell because you're so dark. People will try to say that to women like Justine Skye, or, about women like Ryan Destiny, who have even talked in interviews multiple times about their mixed race ancestry. People are just trying to invalidate you because in their mind, they don't like the fact that you get to have a fluid identity. They don't like the fact that you can dip in and out of blackness or, in and out of different social situations. And so because they view you as being socially higher up than them, they want to try to humble you. And I've also seen this even with MLS men, because women have a higher social value than men in general. We already know this. Men want women way more than women want men. So this inherently gives women the highest social value in terms of dating, sex, whatever. It doesn't matter what the guy wants. He wants something from a woman. And a lot of women, we can still thrive even without a man. And so this actually puts women higher up on the social hierarchy. And this is why I talk so strongly about decentering men, because decentering guys, that actually helps you to stay on your pedestal. Guess what? A guy doesn't want to put me on a pedestal. He doesn't want to treat me like shit. Guess what? I'll put myself on the pedestal. I will treat myself to flowers. I will treat myself to, being special. And I will get dressed up by myself and still go out. But let's continue. She said he would talk about how he preferred Latinas and also said because of my partying, no man, especially one of means, would be willing to wait until marriage for me. It was all out of jealousy for my purity and how many more options I had than him. That's exactly what it is. And that's also why he tried to call you light brown. He is trying to, in his mind, he is putting skin tones on a hierarchy. So he's trying to say, well, you're not the lightest person I've ever seen in my life. But who is? Who is the lightest person? Like, there's always someone lighter than you. There's always someone darker than you. So that's why I get annoyed when people say comments like that, because it's like, there is no purpose of you saying that other than you just want the person to be reminded that, oh, there are people out there who are lighter than you, as if that person themselves doesn't already know that. That would be like if I said to a man, there are guys out there with more money than you. There are guys out there with a six-pack and you don't have it. There are guys out there with a better hairline than you. There are guys out there whose beard actually connects. So it's like, the only point of people saying that is they're trying to nag you. They want to humble you. They're trying to check you. And anytime somebody tries to use your skin tone to check you, that person absolutely puts skin tone on a hierarchy, and they feel like your skin tone is on a higher hierarchy than theirs. Doesn't matter what skin tone you have, even if you are darker than them, because you are a woman and you're light skinned. He viewed it as you're socially higher off, you're higher than me socially, because even if a woman was dark skinned, she would still be higher than him because he's a man. So women have the social advantages in society. I guess I have to do an episode on this. But anyway, she said, I stayed in contact with him for about a month total, and that was way too long. I hope the rest of the Exoticals United community avoids men like this at all costs. A few other honorable mentions. I was on a college tour as a middle schooler with a few other kids and 2 grown men. There was an absolutely gorgeous, very light-skinned, almost white passing in skin tone, girl there. I believe she was a senior. One of the grown men there gave her tons of extra attention, and I was feeling pretty inferior, admittedly. But she was really nice, and we ended up being friends. Skin tone came up when we were in a group setting, and of course, the guy I mentioned earlier gave her the light skin card and told me I'm medium. Of course, he was a very deep, dark-skinned man, around the color of the darkest-skinned emoji. Laughable. So yes, I've noticed that men will try to pit women against each other, and they try to make us compete in terms of beauty. And a lot of men, because maybe they put white skin on a hierarchy or on a pedestal, especially on ambiguous black men. This is part of why I do not date them, and I don't care what anybody thinks of that. I don't date unambiguous monoracial, darker-skinned black men because of stuff like this. A lot of times, from what I've witnessed, even in my own family, a lot of unambiguous dark-skinned black men do tend to have the biggest complex about their skin tone, because not only are they kind of feeling like they're at the bottom in terms of race, but then they're also feeling like they're at the bottom in terms of skin tone. And then they're also feeling like they're at the bottom because they're a man, versus women in the social hierarchy. And then they also feel like they're at the bottom because they can't compete with the other groups of men, or they feel like they're not as desirable. So it's like these guys, a lot of those guys have too many, they're not privilege stacking. A lot of them are really like trauma stacking and victim stacking. And so they can't help sometimes but to place that trauma onto you. And actually this comment, I've actually been told this comment by my own father, who, I love my dad, no shade towards him. He's an unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black man. He compares me to my mother, who has a whole different racial background. Obviously I'm the product of my mom and dad. For reference, my background is black, white, Mexican. So my mom looks like how Selena looks, or like Vanessa Bryant. So my dad will compare me to basically a Vanessa Bryant and be like, oh, well, you're medium. Or like, well, actually my dad, he didn't say I was medium, but he will say that like the Vanessa Bryant phenotype, like that is what my dad views as quote unquote light skin. And I've noticed a lot of unambiguous black men will do this because they want to approximate themselves to you as the non-white passing light skin. They want to approximate themselves to you so that they can feel better about themselves. I've noticed this with my own family members. I've noticed this with a lot of unambiguous black women. They do this to darker skin mixed women in particular. They hold on to darker skin mixed women, and they also do this with East African women in particular because you know how a lot of East African women look very mixed. Like a lot of East African women, their actual faces and their noses, how they're like upturned and stuff, they have a look that is heavily associated with mixed race people. I myself and my brother have been mistaken for East Africans before. But anyway, yes, a lot of black guys in particular will do this to light-skinned, non-passing women, and it's to approximate themselves to you. It's as a humbling tactic and to pit you against other women in an attempt to raise his own value and raise his own status in your eyes. Because on a subconscious level, that man is thinking, okay, if I can get two light-skinned girls to fight over me, that raises my value. He doesn't actually care. He's not actually viewing it as, oh, this girl over here, the white passing one, she's my dream girl. Because remember, I talk about that on this channel. Men don't have a dream girl. A lot of men don't even know what their own dreams are in life. So how could they have a dream girl? They don't have one, because if they did, the porn industry wouldn't be so big. They wouldn't have to look at multiple videos of multiple different types of women. So I actually do not believe that men, that they have the idea of, oh, she's the most beautiful woman in the world, no other woman can compare to her, blah, blah, blah. No. I think that men, they will just try to play into that so that women can fight over him or try to fight to impress him and, kind of like go against each other. And then it raises his value because he's like, yes, I've got them fighting over me. Anyway, she also says, I went to a fast food restaurant with my boyfriend recently, and the man helping us said that my boyfriend looked like his best friend. So he thought that my boyfriend was him. He showed us a picture, and he was right. But then he pointed out that his best friend is always with mixed girls, and he would have been happy and relieved to finally see him with a black girl. Odd comment to say, especially out loud. My boyfriend was confused because he's like, a mixed-looking girl? That's you. LOL. I would say that I have only rarely gotten mistaken for mixed, so I guess his observation was fair. But it's just another humbling tactic used to pit light-skinned mixed and light-skinned monoracials against each other, and to humble us with more black features. Pathetic. And of course, this was another dark-skinned black man. Yep, this happens all the time. That's why I'm so glad that we have all decided to unite across skin tones, even across racial lines. Like a lot of mixed people, at first, and a lot of them have been blocked from this channel, but a lot of mixed people or even mixed race content creators got mad at me in the beginning because they were like, why are you including people who look mixed who are not mixed? People who are monoracial who just look mixed. And it's because the people who are monoracial who look mixed, kind of like a Tyra Banks or somebody like that, they try to use us, and we look alike, they try to use us against one another in order to have power over us. This is typical narcissistic triangulation. That's what you do when you're a narcissist. All you have to do is divide and conquer. So if people who are monoracial or, they have an inferiority complex because they're both monoracial and they are darker skin and they also have unambiguous features, and let's not try to pretend like we don't know what black features look like. But a lot of people from this group, they will try to use our racial backgrounds against us, or they will try to compare us to one another. Like, for example, I've had a lot of white passing mixed girls on this channel, and then they'll say, yeah, and then the guys, those same guys, they will tell us white passing mixed girls that we're not as pretty as the more Aaliyah looking mixed girls. Or, they'll try to tell us that we don't look as pretty as like Rihanna, Aaliyah, Beyonce, someone who is closer to blackness, or someone who doesn't look white passing. So all of us, and then the darker skinned women will come on and they'll be like, yeah, and then they try to compare us to white passing mixed women, or they try to compare us to women who have a high yellow skin tone. So this is all just triangulation. They're trying to divide and conquer. And that is exactly why I called my channel Exoticals United, because they love to throw us all in this random category. They throw us in and out of blackness, and they call us silly nicknames like Exoticals. But I decided to take back that name and say, guess what? All of the Exoticals are uniting then. Since you guys want to try to use us as your emotional punching bag, they want to use us as scapegoats. So, for example, because they're mad about white supremacy or colorism, texturism, featureism, how white men have treated them, how black men have treated them, because they're mad about that, they're trying to use us as, kind of the scapegoat that they want to crucify and emotionally, they want to make us their emotional punching bag. And guess what? We're not doing that anymore. You know why? Because all of us are coming together now. There are 10,000 of us on this channel, and all of us are sharing our stories. So guess what? We know all of the games that these other people are playing with us because we are all coming back to this community and laughing about it. And saying, wow, it's so hilarious that these guys thought that they could control our identities. It's so funny how they tried to put us, they tried to put the darker skinned mixed women against the light skinned mixed women. Then they tried to put the light skinned mixed women against the white passing mixed women. Then they tried to put the white passing mixed women against the darker mixed women. Then they put monoracials against the mixed people, and then multi-generationally mixed against biracials. So they're trying so hard to divide us. And guess what? Now we get to just come back and laugh about it. We get to share our intel on this channel. And guess what? The Exoticals have united, baby. We're here to play and we're here to stay. But I'm so glad that this pretty girl sent me this email. So let's continue. She said, number 3, me and my friend, who is a few shades lighter than me, she is Sade's color, went out. The bouncer, yet another dark-skinned black man, immediately made reference to us being light-skinned once we approached the door. Then he corrected himself, like, well, I won't say light-skinned. Hilarious. Like, sir, if you immediately said light-skinned, and that's what your brain registered subconsciously, then that's probably what we both are. So annoying. And the gag is, who asked any of these people to comment on or validate my skin tone? Yes, I've noticed that if you are not dark-skinned, if you have a lighter complexion, people are so jealous of that and they want to gatekeep it away from people who were actually born with that skin tone. Oh, it's like, dude, you cannot stop 32 years of my experiences that I've already had in life. So all of us have been told, if you're not white passing, damn near all of us have been told you're not that light skin. You know why? Because they're comparing you to someone lighter than you. But guess what? There's no such thing as the lightest person in the world. The lightest person in the world would be a white person. Why is it that white women or whiteness has to be the standard for mixed race black women or for quote unquote light skinned black women? Even if you look up the definition of the term light skinned in the dictionary, all it says is someone who is relatively light. So being relatively light means that you are just lighter than the average person within your ethnicity. So they do have terms light skin and dark skin for all the ethnicities, by the way. I grew up around white people. I've heard white people calling other white people light skinned or pale. And then I've heard white people also call other white people dark skinned when they have a tan or something like that. And so same thing in the Latin American community and in the black community. So the term light skin just means you are relatively light compared to people within that community. And so this means that if you are lighter than the average African American or the average unambiguous African American, who in my opinion is somewhere around maybe Gabrielle Union's color, Brandy, Jennifer Hudson, I don't know, Brian McKnight. I'm just trying to think of random people who like whatever I think of in my mind when I think of somebody who is of African American descent, I would say if you are even a half a shade lighter than them, then yes, you're going to get treated differently and your experiences are going to line up more with that of a light-skinned person. And this is exactly why we need our own community, because we need to have a space where we get to decide, wait a minute, what is light skin? And by the way, we did vote on what we are calling light-skinned on this channel and in this community. If we ever feel a need to vote later on in the future or something as the community grows, we can. But we all came together even on this channel and we all started talking and saying, okay, what was your experience? Okay, you had the light skin experience. And then what is your Fenty shade? Okay, so this is my Fenty shade. And by the way, we voted on Fenty shades 390 and above is when we have all noticed the quote unquote light skinned experience happening. So that is what made us decide Fenty 390 and above, that's what we're going to call light skin, because it seems like in the black community, if you are Fenty 390 and above, you start getting treated like this. You start having people saying, oh, I haven't decided yet if you're light-skinned, or, you have people going back and forth like, you're not that light-skinned, so-and-so is lighter than you. So they start trying to say stuff like that to humble you because they don't want you to feel good about yourself. They feel like, oh no, you can only be white passing to feel good about your skin tone. And they're trying to project that anti-blackness onto you. And guess what? We're not having it over here. Anyway, she says, there's more where that came from, lol. But I hope one or more of these can be featured. Thank you so much for your channel. It's the outlet I didn't know I needed. She also says, one edit. I mentioned that the guy in the first story was super skinny because that was another thing that seemed to make him insecure. He was very tall as well, and I usually go for tall and slim men. But because of some little comments he'd make, I think he felt self-conscious about looking weak. For example, one time I grabbed onto his arm and he was like, "I know you're just doing that to see how skinny I am." Also, I have one more story about a guy I was on a first date with. He was an attractive dark-skinned black man, about the skin tone of black coffee. Pretty. Many people compliment my freckles whenever they notice that I have them. His comment, however, stood out. He said, "It's weird that you have freckles because you're not light-skinned." It's so funny. People love to gatekeep certain features. Like I've noticed that anytime a darker skinned exotical has light eyes, people will do the same thing. They'll be like, "Oh, are your eyes fake?" Or like, "Are you wearing contacts?" And yeah, I'm not surprised about any of that. Anyway, this was a fantastic story. I hope more of you guys share your stories because I love the fact that we get to come to this channel and give all of our intel and just laugh about everything that a lot of other people are saying about us. It's so funny how they think that they can control our self-perception by telling us comments like, "You're not that light-skinned, shut up." It's hilarious. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.